The yard transformation is finally complete. Stick around and I'll show you how we redesigned this yard into an awesome outdoor living space. So the side of our house has actually looked like this for about 5 years since we moved in. It was time to redo it, and I'm very happy with the results. I broke all of these steps out into other videos, so I don't go into a whole lot of detail with this final video, but wanted to put it all together so we could all see it from start to finish. But the first thing that we're doing is just removing the old fence, installing a new one. Those posts are 8 feet to center apart. And the steps to completing the fence really aren't that difficult. It's a matter of just setting out the line that you want your fence to follow, followed by installing the posts. You want them about 2 to 3 feet into the ground, making sure that they're level, adding some Quikrete. That's settled in about 30 minutes. So you can have your posts up in a few hours, especially if you just go ahead and purchase them at the size that you need and there's really no cutting or anything that you have to get done. Mixing the concrete up there and just adding fence rails here. I go into further details about these in the other videos again, but I have a level on there. You don't need them to be level. You really want them to follow the grade and the terrain of the yard. Since I have that wall there, there's a footer at the bottom, so I couldn't get that post any further over. So my rails hang a little bit off the edge, but that is so my pickets can go all the way to the end. And I think they came out with the perfect measurement there. Same on the other side, the shed has some bamboo behind it, and I couldn't get that post over any further, so I had to extend the 2x4s and the rails a little bit. This jig is something that I made to line the pickets up with. It's simply a 2x4 attached to another 2x4, and you can see how I use it to measure and level each picket. So as long as I do that with each one, then it's going to be perfectly level. You can also tie a string. You can put one picket, install one picket on one end and then one at the other end, and then run a string from the very top of it and follow the string along as well. There's a couple of ways that you can do it. So this is the finished product. I thought it turned out very well. After we got the fence up, then it was time to kind of clear the yard. So I used this weed killer and absolutely love it. It's about 7 ounces per gallon, and it will just kill everything within about 24 hours. So I laid that down first just to make sure nothing else was, or try to minimize the growth, even though I'm going to be putting the weed barrier down. An entire crew probably could have completed this in a weekend, 2 or 3 days, but since I'm just using manual tools, garden hose, shovels, rakes, rock rakes, it took a little bit longer than I wanted to. But this is the finished product once I got all the overgrown weeds and such out of there. And then it was just a matter of creating the walkway. So I laid out with some string that you can't see there, the path of which I wanted to do it, and I took out too much dirt, frankly. I was afraid that the aggregate at the bottom was going to add 2 to 4 inches, but really it only added maybe a half an inch. So I had to add a little bit more sand than I wanted to make sure that the stones are level when I finish creating the walkway. But after that, it's basically just laying some weed barrier down and then time to stain the fence, which with a pump sprayer was pretty easy. I didn't need to add water to it. I didn't need to back brush the fence at all, which is pretty common to have to do. I will say that I made a few mistakes early on in the beginning, basically going over it too many times and trying to cover every single square inch. But since we're going to put another coat on, as long as I got 95% of the picket, I was fine moving on. Whereas before I was really just going over 2 or 3 coats of it at a time. And you don't need to do that. You just need to keep a good amount of pressure in the sprayer, and as you can see, keep it 6 to 8 inches away. It can create quite a bit of overspray if if you don't have the right nozzle or if you're just not paying attention. But then I took out my spray gun to spray paint the stones for the walkway. I used about 10% water in here with the paint because I feel like it just runs through the paint gun a little bit easier. This is the only paint gun that I've ever had, or spray gun, and I love it. But I can't tell you if it's great compared to some of the other ones. It's relatively inexpensive and very easy to use. But you can see that's the finished product. Those stones are the same color as some trim around the house, so it's all going to hopefully tie in together nicely. But each stone doesn't need to be level with the next stone. I'm really just leveling it with itself to make sure that it's flat when we walk on it. Not a huge deal. I've seen some videos where people just lay it regardless, but I think it looks neater and cleaner if each one is level. And each one can't be level with the next one because of the grade of the yard. If you started leveling it from the beginning of the walkway to the very end, you'd have a very large discrepancy and need a significant amount of sand and dirt to make up for keeping the whole thing level. So each individual level stone works. And this is the finished product. Came out great. Just added some white marble chips to it and really pops off of the gray color of the stone. Now that the weed barrier is down and the walkway is finished, it is time to add the plants, which is coming in on the home stretch here. Added some podocarpus, which you should check out another video. They all died, and I had to return them to Home Depot, dig them up, and return them. Wasn't an issue. That was the first time I ever had to return plants, especially podocarpus, because I have them all over the house. Love them, very low maintenance, but I must have got a bad batch or something. So adding variety of plants, variety of color throughout the yard. The way that you cut through that weed barrier is you want to make an X with a blade and then tuck back each individual little corner and dig your hole, put the plant in, and then untuck the individual triangle corners that you've cut, and it fits right back over the weed or the plant nicely, but still covering the weeds. Adding some mulch, made a quick makeover and spray paint to my shed because it was moldy and dirty. Wanted it to match the stone as well as the house. So the stepping stones as well as the trim on the shed also now match the trim on the house to hopefully give it a kind of uniform look. That's the finished product. Still don't know if I'm going to keep that black door. But this is it. All done with the mulch, the walkway. We added some string lights and transformed it from a completely unusable, barren wasteland of a dirt pit into this awesome outdoor living space. Hope you liked this video. If you did, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the like button. Don't forget to share it. Ask me any questions that you may have. Look forward to being a resource and seeing you at the next project.